How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with The Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Lucky from 2020. This is directed by Natasha Kermani and stars Brea Grant, and also Brea Grant is the writer of this movie, so a pretty cool combo, writer and lead actress there. Cool to see someone filling two roles. That's always interesting. This is also a new Shudder original that just dropped on DVD not that long ago. Shudder is a horror-focused streaming service, which automatically makes them pretty cool. But one thing I do like about Shudder, as opposed to a lot of other streaming services, is they actually put their stuff out on physical media for us physical media nerds. So I am very appreciative of them for that. And this is a pretty cool movie. I've seen a lot of Shudder movies. At the end of the video there'll be a playlist and you can click there and see a lot of my other Shudder reviews. But that being said, I've seen a ton of Shudder movies. This is one of the better ones. Now, that being said, I say that, but I do have to say it's one that I really like, but it's admittedly not going to be for everyone. This is a little bit of an art house movie. And I know art house movies aren't really for everyone. Now, this isn't like super hoity-toity, makes no sense art house, but it is kind of going towards that ballpark. You see, the beginning of this movie asks a lot of questions, and a lot of people are gonna want real, concrete answers to those questions, and this movie is more like, nah, it's more of a metaphorical answers to those questions, and expect more in metaphor and symbolism than in real-world concrete answers to what exactly is happening here. And I know that's not going to be for everybody, but if you want an interesting movie that you can talk about later and try to analyze, okay, what do you think this or that means, then that's definitely there. One thing I do also want to mention before we go in, the front of it says, a thrilling time loop mystery from Nerdist there, and this does have a looping element. It does have a reoccurring element, which we'll get into in a second. But that being said, it's not a true time loop. Like, this isn't literally time repeating itself. It's a reoccurring element, but it's not a true time loop. If you guys want a time loop slasher that's a literal time loop, check out the movie Triangle. The movie Triangle, really good, really underrated. But if you want a legitimate time loop slasher, check out Triangle. That's pretty fun. But this is more a looping element with a supernatural kind of art house thing. Think it reminded me a little bit of Jacob's Ladder. You know how Jacob's Ladder had like this weird monster element, and it was trying to tell this story. But rather than like Jacob's Ladder, you're trying to figure out what's happening. This one is more about what does it mean and what's the metaphor, you know, and instead of a weird monsters, it's a slasher character. So it is different, but it did remind me a little bit of that. But anyway, let's go ahead and talk a bit about the plot. I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but I do want to say my piece on a few plot points and make sure you guys have a basic understanding as to what the movie's about. We open up with this lady. Her name is May, and May is a writer. She writes women's self-help books, and she's with her agent, and they said that the last book she made was good, and it was selling good enough, but it wasn't selling great, and it wasn't selling as good as some of her previous books. And the agent and the publisher are going back and forth, trying to get her a new book deal for whatever she writes next. So she's with her book life, it's stressing her out a little bit, but overall she's okay. But then she goes home, she meets with her husband, the two seem to have a happy relationship in a nice house, and the two go to bed. But then all of a sudden, she's woke up by something in the middle of the night, and she looks out the window and she sees a man with a mask on, standing in the front yard looking up at her. And she goes to her husband and says, honey, there's a man in the front yard. And then it goes to one of the best hooks in a horror movie in quite some time. The husband gets up and says, "Oh yeah, that's probably the man." The man? What man? The man who tries to break into our house and kill us every night. That's just such a good hook, the way he nonchalantly goes, "Oh yeah, that's the man who tries to break into our house and kill us every night." And he just, gets up and gets going, "Oh, hope he doesn't have any good weapons with him today," and she's like, "What the heck are you talking about?" The two go down there, and it's this slasher scene where they're, going through the house and trying to avoid the man, and they eventually overpower him. They knock him out, and she's like, "Oh, honey, we gotta call the police," and he goes, "He's probably already gone." And they look over, and very Michael Myers styled, the guy is just gone, and he just disappears after he's been defeated. And they call the police. The police are, of course, no help. And it's the next day, she's still rattled, and she starts to talk to her husband. "What did you mean by every night?" And he's like, "Well, it's a man who tries to kill us every night." And she's like, "Why are you being so nonchalant? What do you mean?" And this kind of gets into a fight. The husband gets worked up, and he goes, "You're being irrational. I'm gonna leave until you've cooled down." And the husband just goes away. So now she's left by herself, and she knows that this man's gonna come again tonight, and that's the thing that she's gonna have to deal with, is where the heck did her husband go? How can she get him back? But also, this guy's gonna come, break into her house, and try to kill her every single night, and that's where you get your looping element. And it's not actually a time loop, this is, one day after the other, people talking to her about this reoccurring thing, knowing it's happened multiple days in a row. And that's where you get interesting things like how her friends take it, or how the police take it, the police, "Oh yeah, you're very lucky. You sure it's not your husband?" "No, it's not my husband." "Okay, you sure you don't know this guy?" "No, I don't know this guy." And just being super unhelpful. But anyway, yeah, that being said, this is a really cool hook, a really good idea. The husband going, "That's the man who tries to break into our house every night. Who is he? Why can't he die?" They get him some pretty good shots on him where you think he should be dead, and then the killer's just gone, and he comes back, and you're like, why is this guy trying to break into the house every single night? But like I said, it's more of a metaphor. You're not gonna get like a concrete, reason, and that's sort of the thing, you look at another social thriller that came out recently, Get Out. There you had a bunch of people being really weird, but at the end of the movie, you found out exactly why they were being weird, and that's not really the case here. You're going into surreal metaphor land. You're not going to get a concrete answer as to physically why this guy is coming back, but you'll get an answer as to metaphorically why he can come back, and that's not going to be for everybody. But I do want to say, with this metaphor, I encourage you to think harder about it than a lot of you might. It's going to be very tempting to just take the base of this metaphor and go, "Oh yeah, that's what this movie's about." Obviously, there is a feminist element to it, and it could be really easy to say, "Oh yeah, men shouldn't be huge jerks to women and ruin their life," which obviously shouldn't. And that's like the base. That is there. That's the base of the movie's message. But that's not the only thing, and there's a lot more to dig into, and I feel like a lot of people are just going to take that base thing and say, yeah, that's what this movie's about. But there's a lot more to dig into, and I really would say, if you watch this movie, to get into an analyzing mood and dig beyond the surface, because there's a lot of other things this movie talks about, and a lot of other things that it wants you to analyze. In particular, the way society thinks they're helping, the way society will put out something, a basic platitude, and just not care. Like the police, they'll come by every day, they'll do their job, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, you're lucky," hence the title, ma'am, you're lucky you made it out, and then they'll just not do anything, you know, and they'll say, oh yeah, we're doing this, don't worry, and then the guy comes back again, and you really see that a lot of what this movie is about is it's this really cynical, really biting, real-world message of nobody cares about your problems, you know? And I really encourage you to look at the movie that way, how society will throw out this blanket statement and say, yeah, we're helping, we're doing this, that's what we always do. But at the end of the day, no one really cares, and it is really just biting, you know, yeah, are you really helping, are you really doing your job type deal. And now I also want to say, you know, a lot of people, when they hear, oh, feminist message, they'll tune out, and that's a lot because Hollywood lately has been really making a ton of fake feminist films, you know? They're not real feminist films, they're not trying very hard, they're just there to make money, and overall they're giving films with social messaging a bad name. But this is a movie that is really well written and thought-provoking. It talks about an issue intelligently and in a layered way, and I want to say, you know, don't think that this is going to be another in the long line of Hollywood's fake feminist films. This is real and invites you to analyze it and talk about it in a respectful way and understand it in a deep and meaningful way, and not just, you know, a dumb popcorn movie under the guise of feminism. This is a real one, and I'd encourage you guys to check it out if you're at all interested in art house horror. And I really want to say that there's a lot to think about. Now, there are a few flaws. You know, there are some stretches in the middle where it's a little slower, and some conversations where you're like, is that extremely necessary, you know? And there are some parts where you're like, okay, get back to the meat of this movie, get back to the really cool and interesting concept. So there are some parts where it goes a little slow, but that being said, this movie's only like an hour, 20 minutes, so it's really, even if there are scenes that it's slow, it doesn't drag on too long, because overall it's not that long of a movie, and it is got some cool slasher elements, like when this guy's coming over, and obviously I'm a huge slasher geek. I do like these elements. I wish they were longer and bigger and bloodier and gorier. Overall, this has some horror in it, but it's more concerned about telling the story and getting you to think about stuff. And I like that. I like that that's there. At the same time, I wish there was way more blood, but that being said, the horror stuff, it does well. I just wish there was more of it and it was more intense. But overall, that's really fun, and, you know, to get to see this guy come back. This guy, you know, a dark black jacket, and he's got this clear mask on, you know, and it's, you know, he reminds you a little bit of Michael Myers, you know, the dark outfit with the mask. But the mask also, you know, clear mask, kind of like Alice, Sweet Alice with the clear mask, where you can see through it a little bit, but it's distorting this guy's face enough you can't tell. And I really did like, he's a cool, interesting character, and the way, you know, he'll show up and he'll learn things, like she'll attack him one way, and then the next day he'll be ready for it and be ready to dodge this attack, you know, and you really see between the two of them, it's almost like a game of chess, you know, where, okay, he'll be beaten this way one day, he's not going to be beaten like that the next day, and you have to always wonder, what's he going to do? If I try this, is he going to try that again? You know, and it really is interesting. Overall, the thing is with this movie is the part where it's horror, that's going to get a lot of people interested, but when it goes into the art house elements, when it goes into there's no real world explanation, and knowing that you're essentially trapped in this fantasy world, not everybody's gonna like that. Because, I mean, like, you know, Get Out, weird people, real world reason, Jacob's Ladder, another movie this reminded me of, that was all in a surrealist landscape. Yet at the end of the day, in Jacob's Ladder, you knew exactly what happened. And with this one, when they try to say, you know, towards the end, there's like, okay, this is probably an event that sparked it, you don't even get to know fully what that event is, and you don't know exactly where the characters are, and it's left kind of loose. And if you're okay with that, if you're okay with this type of storytelling, you'll probably really like this movie. But for the people that want more concrete answers, that's going to definitely turn them off. And for the people that are wanting 100% blood and gore horror, note that this is a lot of message. But that being said, I really did enjoy what this was. I did like the weird surrealist element at the end, and I did like, you know, puzzling together and thinking about what it meant, and again, not just on the surface level, but dig deeper and think about what they're trying to say and why specific elements are the way they are. And if there's a little thing that doesn't make sense, just try to think, you know, what could that be trying to say? And I know this isn't going to be everybody's cup of tea, but if I'm talking about this stuff and it doesn't turn you off, and you sound like you might like it, I definitely encourage checking this out, because there's a lot there, even if it's not for everybody. There is a lot to think about with this movie, and I really did enjoy it. I mean, obviously, I could have gone with more blood and gore, but I really did like it. You know, the slasher elements were fun, and the surrealist mystery, there was a lot to unpack and a lot to think about, and I really did like it. And I'd encourage you, if you do watch it again, really take the time and analyze it more than you would a normal movie. There's a lot to think about here. And yeah, I did have fun with it. So anyway, recommend it if you're the right crowd for this. Again, it's good, but not for everybody. But I had fun. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You're really helping the channel out. I'll put a relevant playlist at the bottom that should be my Shudder playlist. If you want to see me talk about more Shudder movies, you can click right there and see me talk about more of them. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.